and thin, they said when the veil was thin before, people would see all types of creatures that we hear about in books. I want to ask you, Rob, you ever had experiences with fairies and stuff like that? You know how we hear about
all the
fairies.
time.
So yeah, what's your experience? Damn, you said
Listen,
that. You said all the goddamn. I didn't expect you to say.
look, brother,
What
look,
was that?
remember I told you before, I said in this part of the earth realm where
Uh-huh.
we at now, in this reality, nobody's allowed to come in a mythical form. You remember me telling you that?
Yes, you told me that plenty of times. Yes, indeed.
Right. They look human because they take on a human form. The fairies, the gnomes, the water sprites, the fire sprites, they take on human bodies in the realm of the humans because we're the highest evolved creatures, closest to God walking the earth. And when they come in out of the mythical plane, that's what they call it. Because this is where all the myths is kept alive. The energy just transfer into the human arena, so we can play mortal humans.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them still there. Your unicorns, your fairies, your leprechauns, the Bantu peoples that was living in Ireland when the Catholic Church was murdering them all. That's why they say they killed the snakes because the women wore snake armbands and the men wore the snake headband.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
He didn't kill shit. And there wasn't no snakes. And wasn't no snakes in Ireland. There's no history of snakes in Ireland. There's no
Mm.
fossil record of a snake ever being in Ireland.
Damn.
So what snakes was old St. Patrick killing then? If it ain't never really been no snakes there, and he was made a saint by the Catholic Church for killing snakes, what snakes is he killing? What kind of serpents is these he's killing?
Right. Damn.
They're called Nagas. Nagas.
And
So
that's a people.
that's yep, that's the ancient royal families of the earth, the Nagas. Their descendants is the Amaru Khans of the Southwest Americas, moving into Peru and Bolivia and all that stuff.
Right.
Going down into the monkey village in South America when it was the journey to the west of Hanuman, Sun
Mm-hmm.
Wukong journey to the west, right, where the Buddha sent him to get the Buddhist scrolls,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then you see the monkey cities in South America, you see the monkey and the Nazca lands that's native to another part of the world, right? And it's on there with the phoenix. We see the symbol of the baboon representing Tahuti and Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
The monkey mind is the Sako mile. When your elders kept putting these certain symbols there, what was they trying to tell you? Have you ever asked yourself, if I was my ancestor and I painted that, what would I be trying to get my descendants to understand? Because then yourself gonna have to make you look at it from a perspective as if you wrote it.
As if you wrote it. Right.
And once you look at it as if you wrote it and you was trying to get a message into the future, you think how many generations, and then you'll know how the evolution of time will cause the message to be distorted,
Right.
right? And the distortion comes in during the Kali Yuga, which is the dark phase. This is the moon cycle of the 24,000 year cycle. The global warming is a sign that there's a sun cycle returning.
Mm.
And the moon cycle, a lunar cycle, which is a cold cycle, leaving. So when the sun cycle comes in, brings the golden age with it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a look at the lifting of the veil as in the transition from the night sky to the early morning sky.
Mm-hmm.
And the mirror is that orb that's coming over the horizon is you.
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you just broke through Kepler. Now you rolling across the sky, across the Horus rising. And we know that when Horus is done rising, he's our 10.
Mm.
He is the eagle in full view of all other eagle clans. He's the falcon in full view of all the falcon clans. He's the great hawk that's visible to all of the hawk clan in the sky at one time, but all it is a sign of a solar flare.
Mm.
All of the bird clans tell it the same way. It's the bird with the phoenix wings curling up to the sun,
Mm.
or the hawk wings, or the falcon wings, depending on which culture is telling the story, depending on which bird is it representing.
Mm. Mm.
Right? Which takes you to the great thunderbird, Quetzalcoatl. Right? The Quetzalcoatl thunderbird means the bird with the booming voice. Right? But we know that the booming voice moniker was taken by Enlil, the god of the skies, and he's also the lord of the booming voice. He means Lord. Right? And Lil mean the booming voice, or the booming sound of thunder. So they make it have a dual meaning.
Right.
Flip the mirror.
Indeed. Right.
Right.
What all, no, good. You're still talking good. I'm sorry.
Good.
With all this water that people are reporting, the flooding, I've seen New York, water's been coming down extremely hard in Georgia the last month. I mean, there was there was one time I think it rained like 14 days in a row out here. And right before our Stone Mountain trip that we did about 2 weeks ago, I mean, it poured raining the night before. We always hear about the floods and when the worlds are ending. Is this water? Some people, I've heard people on TikTok say that this is etheric water. This is water coming from beyond this realm. Is there anything unique about the flooding or the rain or the water that's coming down now versus the rain, the flooding, the water that we seen maybe 20 years?
The pattern is unique. If you look at the pattern, you would say those are aqueducts.
Mm.
Somebody's opening aqueducts.
What's an aqueduct for somebody who doesn't know, Rod?
It's like an underground dam that holds a large portion of water.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the flood locations has almost zero rain, and it's normally dry. The aqueduct's been there for thousands of years, if not millions.
Mm.
They tell us about the ones in other parts of the world, but they don't tell us about the ones over here. Mm. You got to remember, they didn't start studying anthropology and archaeology over here until the 1800s, where they've been 200-300 years prior overseas. They never, when they come with the Outer Africa theory, the Outer Africa theory is contingent upon Africa being the first place that they studied for ancient artifacts of bone.
Mm-hmm.
But America didn't start becoming, I think it was one of them signers of the Declaration was the first archaeologist. And then you had another guy, he was part of some other organization that was the first anthropologist. Right? So they wasn't even studying over here when they came up with the Outer Africa theory. No, there was not a sufficient study of the Americas published with peer review for it to even be considered as part of the discussion with the Outer Africa narrative. But we have artifacts that's older than people possibly could imagine. Mm-hmm. Explain that if we wasn't the first. Right, so we trying to get the point across that the oldest contract on the planet is the gender of the earth being feminine, and that the close of each age have to be closed with returning the earth back to the divine feminine, not just the feminine, the divine feminine. This the evolved sisters. This is why we always talk about Big Mama. The ones who have children with sibling rivalries that she's learned how to mediate the conflict between them to make them grow up as a collective strong unit. Them the ones we talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Where the other ones fail miserably because their sons grow up killing each other. Right? Because they don't teach the family unity. This is how you tell the difference in who people are. You got a spectrum by which the family unity is even being discussed. Into what degree? Right? So we have to get back to understanding that who we are and when these stories was being written, they had nothing to do with us. We know history was written by the victims. We know that because they told us that history was written by the victims.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever disputed it or proved it to be an invalid statement. Therefore, it became a maxim.
Mm-hmm.
It's a standing truth that's never been disproven. Right? So we know that the truth is so valuable that they're going to guard it with a circle of lies because Winston Churchill told us.
Mm-hmm.
Head of state during World War II. Right? So what is the lie that's so valuable that they got to conceal? If you want to conceal as the victor who the rightful heirs is to a territory so you can maintain your conquest, then the secret that you want to keep is that these people own that land. Because once we overthrow. But as long as we can get them to believe we belong on their land, then we can get them to let us stay on their land for free. Matter of fact, we can even charge them for letting us stay on their land. Read that about.
No, for real, yeah. Wow. Rob, we talk about, I believe, like I told you earlier, I remember watching Bobby Hemmett talk about when the Earth fell into 3D, and I believe this is around the Atlantis period, right? Was it around that period?
We did live through these cycles
Which
billions of times. These are cycles.
okay.
Just
Yeah.
like how many times in the history of the world have we went through the 4 seasons?
Yeah, exactly. Many
It's
times.
the same thing. It's just on a different scale.
Rob, when did this veil first form? This veil that I'm sure there was one time when there was no veil at all. In the ancient books, is there anybody talk about this veil formed out of nowhere and we see?
No. We know exactly what the veil is. The veil is the sleep stage or the nighttime, the Kali Yuga for the god.
Mm-hmm.
This one that we coming out of is artificially induced because of warfare.
Mm.
The stories is told as Verminus Wars and as Pyramid Wars, but they still wars nonetheless. Technology was different, but it was advanced. So they still had bombs nonetheless. The human was inquisitive to understand the fractals of nature, so they learned how to split the atom, of course. Right? And they blew up bombs. You got deserts as the aftermath to prove the ignorance of man and the destruction to Mother Earth. And it parallels with the onslaught of what we call the patriarchal agenda. The patriarchal agenda is to take the mother's right of the heritable land by force until there is no more daughters who inherit the land. You get it?
Yeah.
So
Rob,
the veil is just like a sleep period.
okay.
And when the veil is lifted, it's like opening your eyes in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we understand that the veil is a state of mind. It's a consciousness.
Right.
When you in the veil, you blind, deaf, and dumb. Because you walking around in the dark, not knowing who you are, not remembering who you were because you are in the dark. Right? You can use the darkness for a mirror if you become self-aware enough to do so. It helps you discover who you is better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the goal is when you're under the veil,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same as being under a blanket with the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or being in China when there's daylight in America.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's dark over there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's daylight over here.
Right.
It's cycles. So the lifting of the veil is not like lifting the curtain on a theater, but you can still look at it like that if you see the world as a stage and we are just actors.
Yo, Rod, I was looking at your avatar. I forgot to ask you earlier, but I'm glad I'm asking you now because there's more people here. I'm looking at your avatar with the
So when you smoke the herb, when you first start getting high, um, your synapses fire erratic, so your nerves be erratic. So we always use the cigars to tone the nicotine from the cigars to balance it out. Man, I hit that cigar. I was so balanced with my trees. I was like, God dang. The only thing it was so wide that the cigar was so fat that it's gonna go bad before I can get to smoke the whole thing. That's the only sad part about it because I smoke it to help focus on certain topics. But man, that mug tasted better than any cigar I ever had in my life.
bro. I'm telling you, right? I'm telling that taste is like
But
wow.
I was looking for that energy effect because we haven't had any tobacco that I've tasted since I've been sampling cigars and stuff. I haven't tasted that pure unpoisoned tobacco flavor in a long time.
Mm,
Because you could taste the chemicals in all the other tobaccos.
yeah,
You can tell that whoever grew that like with their hands, like they was hands on loving what they was doing farming that tobacco.
yeah. I got because I know you said you want the smaller joints, so I got
Mm-hmm.
these are smaller ones. So
Yeah, I could smoke them. I probably smoke a whole one of them.
this is the joint you have, Rod. This is the smaller one. So I'm gonna send you
Yeah.
the smaller ones, family. But yeah, family.
Oh,
I told
nice.
y'all I'm my joint is legit. It is legit. It is legit, family. Make sure y'all, for those who send in a donation, PayPal donation, I could gift y'all one of the cigars. So it's a magnificent experience, family. I've been telling y'all about it for months. So I'll share the PayPal with y'all before the end of the show. I might put it in the description, but yeah, family, you got to try this. I mean, an amazing experience. Was you would you say it's like transcendental, therapeutic? What word would you use, Rod?
It's nothing like any other. You won't expect it from a tobacco to be able to be that mellow.
Yeah.
Like it mellows you out, and what it does for the energy, especially for weed smokers. This is why we do both. When you smoke that THC and you start getting that erratic um, THC buzz start coming on,
Mm-hmm.
you smoke. Normally, we smoke a cigarette or a cigar to mellow out the spiking of the weed high.
Mm-hmm.
So you stay high longer, but it's a cleaner high, right? You get to see more stuff in that altered state, right? And then the nicotine facilitating it. It's doing a similar thing from a different angle,
Right.
right? So the way that the cigar burn, the smell, it man, look, if you ever start selling them, getting a subscription.
Oh man, that's big, Rod. Y'all heard that? Rod said he'll get a subscription. That's how much he feeling it. Yo, Rod, just real quick, since we talking about the veil, and the spirit that's in tobacco, I be watching like they be like shows on YouTube where people go to like all these lands and ancient tribes that isn't tainted by modern society, all of them smoke tobacco, bro. Like every single last tribe with these YouTubers that go and they get like millions of views going to these lands, whether it's Africa, South America, Asia, everybody smokes tobacco, Rod. So I'm like, damn, man.
All of them not tobacco, Rick. Some of them are other herbs. Some of them are other herbs. Tobacco is just one of the herbs we smoke. We smoke a lot of herbs. Like sometimes I put rose petals in my weed, smoking buds and roses.
Oh, rose petals.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I use lavender when I really want to relax deeper.
Yeah.
I mix some lavender with my trees.
Mm.
Right, so we don't just smoke the herb alone or the tobacco alone.
Yeah.
We smoke a lot of different herbs for different reasons.
Mm.
And people be forgetting that smoking was one of our first ways we had to get medicine into you internally.
Mm.
Right? We had learned how to make pills and fucking tonic shit.
Right.
But we knew how to mix herbs and burn them, put you in a lodge full of the smoke so you can inhale it to heal yourself. We've been doing that. Right? That's what the same with psilocybin.
Right.
We've been using for a long time, longer than people can imagine, in order to open the mind up. In order to rent the veil individual by individual. But now we do it through a collective renting of the veil. Right? So all of the people are getting genetic upgrade. The genetic upgrade is coming from the solar flare. They feeding the codes to the earth, and the earth is sending them through the people through the Schumann resonance. Right? And this is why only massive amounts of radiation can alter the DNA. Right? That's how you get new species come in off the sudden change of the DNA.
With all this talk about what we're talking about with the veil and with solar flares and everything, fairies and all this stuff, what's your thoughts on the book of Revelation in the Bible, Rod?
It is a coded codex for a certain priesthood to use as a control measure. Right? Revelations is all coded. So you imagine if all of the clergy know what it say, but the regular people don't. That's the same as the CIA putting the code on the network that all of the secret society, all of the secret spy agencies of the world know, but don't nobody else know.
Right. Wow.
We just had an opportunity to crack the code. That's Revelations. Because most of Revelations is excerpts from books in the Old Testament. And then they was put in that form in Revelations in order to retell the story in a more concise manner. It was the summary. Revelation is the summary of the great prophecies of the Old Testament, put in the order that the church believed that they would play out. And the only reason they believed they would play out because they planned them. And the only reason we know they planned them is because we read Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. And he said they was going to do it this way. And this is what it was for. So they kept it a secret. They just hid it in the book because they knew no ninjas wouldn't look. If they hid it all in the books and we had to go to the books to get it out, that takes us back to ancient Egypt when they started recording history. Remember, history used to be kept on crystals.
It used to be kept on crystals?
On crystals, yeah.
Like
this is when our blood was more chlorophyll. We was magnesium and copper instead of iron and copper. Right? And so when we broadcast back then, we was able to communicate with the metal ratio to the crystals and allow us to be like a We were able to use a crystal like a computer, but it was a crystal, and it was more interactive. It was like an artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when the blood was changed over to the iron and copper output, it was not compatible with communicating with crystals. It became compatible with communicating with stone. So
Mm-hmm.
we start carving with chisels then
Right.
to put the messages in the stone because we can't communicate with the crystals.
Damn. So we went from the crystals to the stones.
Right. You ever heard the term getting blown back to the Stone Ages?
Yeah.
What they talking about? That's what happened. That's the veil. We got blown back to the Stone Ages. We got knocked into a state of stupidness and had to learn how to re-evolve into a high functioning civilization again. Now we here. Now there's enough of us, more of us educated in the history of the world as they tell it to us. Because if you go back 100 years, 1899, 1900, 99.5% of the people or more is illiterate. Think about that.
Yeah.
Almost everybody on the planet was illiterate. Now, almost the whole planet can read, write, and do math. That's an evolutionary phenomenon in and of itself. 100 years of almost zero literacy to almost 100% literacy. Even if it's just 50% in 100 years, that's amazing. And so they had to use certain people to get it done. Some of us was here before. Some of us had to wait our turn.
Mm-hmm.
We watched it happen. We watched it go down, but it wasn't our turn, so we wasn't allowed to get in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we all waited our turn, and now the last resort comes to the last resort. The stone the builder rejected is now the chief cornerstone.
Right.
Just when they thought he was going to be stuck as a keystone, he ended up as a capstone.
Right.
When they thought they was going to be stepping over him as a stepping stone, they ended up being over their head as a crown stone.
Mm. And Rob, speaking of stones, what's your thought? Right before our Stone Mountain trip, meteor came crashing down in Georgia. It was the largest meteor ever seen in the daytime. What's your thoughts on a meteor coming to our atmosphere? Is that anything that we should be aware of? Is that a sign of anything? It looked biblical. When you seen the shit on film, on camera, the shit looked biblical as hell. Big ass meteor in the middle of the daytime, man. But what you was gonna say, Rob?
Anytime you flying around in space with this much space debris, something's gonna breach this atmosphere.
Mm.
Normally, because of the Van Allen belt, anything come in,
That's
it's
what I.
gonna be like 90% consumed by fire by the time it touches the ground.
Right.
Right. That's why most of the meteorites that hit the ground are very small compared to the massive craters that they told us was meteorites that was actually dug out by the blast of megalithic bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Most of that stuff can't get through the Van Allen belt, that radiation barrier. If it's only certain materials that can get through there without being melted down to its least common denominator.
Rod, how long the Van Allen belt been in our Earth's magnetic field? All
That
this,
was put.
yeah.
That was on. That's it. Haven't been there that long. The first they had to put the moon there.
Who's there again? Who's there again, Rod? Who put the moon there?
Whoever the fuck the Anunnaki people.
Yeah.
They was working with the Galactic Council to isolate Earth because we was blowing shit up. When they isolate the earth, they had to block Lilith out to control the women. So they put the moon there. There was already an orb up there, but it was more amplifying to that Lilith energy, which gave the women the ability to produce both genders by parthenogenesis. When they took the old moon, the real moon away and put this spaceship moon up there, they got up there right now,
Mm-hmm.
and then they put the Dark Knight satellite in place about 250,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And these two projects the subconscious matter into the 3D reality. It's the holographic universe we talked about at the beginning, Rich.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you look at the holographic projector, remember I asked you, you know how the holographic projector works?
Mm-hmm.
You got to have one fixed going from um, left to right, and then the other one had to be fixed going up to down.
Mm-hmm.
And the projection of the hologram projects between the rays that both of them are projecting,
Mm.
right? So you need both the Dark Knight satellite and the moon to simultaneously project the hologram. The Fortnite simulation is the easiest way to compare it.
So
Take the Fortnite simulation, and now who's ever fighting the war, they can't never escape because they're so busy fighting the war, and it requires them to forget who they is and then wake up in the dream. But most of us don't believe that's a reality because you have people that's been taught to keep. Their job is to keep us from waking up. And that's the George Washington challenge,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's also based on statements from Rothschilds and Rockefellers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they told us what they was doing to us. They told us how they were doing it. And when they was telling it to us, we never believed it was them when they identified themselves by telling us who was responsible for what was being done. So we was going along to get along and didn't even realize we was going along to get along with the wrong one. Because nobody won't say that.
Yeah, that's what you broke down with the moon and the the moon and the Dark Knight satellite. That's quite interesting because we don't hear a lot about the Dark Knight satellite, and I know Billy had the documentary, but outside of that, I don't hear a lot of people talk about the Dark Knight satellite.
Mm-hmm.
So if it takes both of those to create the hologram, then the Dark Knight satellite has been around just as long as this new moon you saying that was planted here.
They had to be in conjunction in close proximity in time.
In time, okay.
Now they never told us how long the moon been there. They estimate 2 billion years, but we know that the Dark Knight satellite only been up there, I think, either 25,000 or 250,000 years. Right, but remember, the original moon was replaced with this spaceship, so that when you replace something with something else, it tends to paint that part of somebody's memory in.